So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing that no one can ever teach you. Because you're going to have to learn that on your own. You're going to have to figure out how to pull that energy out of your mind on your own. There's no book you can read that all of a sudden I have it. I've got the technique now. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's a grind that you have to start and finish on your own.
Let me tell you a story about an illiterate kid. Air guitar lessons at 3, living stateside at 6, pot of philosophy geek. Thought he was born with a gift, but over 20 years later thought I could no longer subsist. While destroyed by misfortune and locked down in his crib, in the shadow of wealth, where the corrupt banks lived, a single flicker of hope was all that kept him awake, burning all through the night. Every second of every day the script changed underneath. The very few could see the story was telling himself. Friends just couldn't believe he was on another planet station they couldn't receive, and it never shut off. An eternal heartbeat, an undeniable call, an unquenchable flame, an unavoidable path. Deltoric quest for his age, he left the valley of lost frequency tuned to perceive, hacking into commits and finally bridging the breach. The code world in his mind, like first learning to read, like a lifetime of red suddenly turning to green. So he opened a branch and turned over a leaf, auto passing the test like a database seed. A book that never been authored, movie never been played, a journey no one else living would ever seek to replicate, song that never been sung, vision he could retain. So it consumed his mind like a triumphant parade. All the Christmas and Easters and birthdays that he missed, paid the isolation price to become the man that he did. So a piece of advice, you should take care what you wish. When you pick up abroad, then you better not miss. Could be in China or Chile, or in mountains of mist, walking into the fog, or ending up a night of with. But I've got no regret that it was written like this. Quantum entangled in, will crafted threads are in synths. In the mountains or seas, the battlements are parapets. In the words of my friends, the ribonucleic helix. In the dance of the stars, or eternity's whim. Cause it's all in my mind, in mithril titanium. You know, when I was about 9 I learned to play violin. You consider it in this song played by a computer sim. So whatever the cost, whatever the sin, whatever the angels on the head of a pin, whatever the rush, whatever the strings, whatever the throne,
there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
Oh, that's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 109, Spreading BCH and Sats Standard, featuring Bruno Pires. Today is Saturday, the 9th of March, 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jed is doing the producing, and we ran into some technical difficulties, so sorry for the delayed start. And also, there will be no live video feed of us today, but I guess you already know what I look like, so you're not missing anything, really. But it is what it is. We got to start with some announcements this week. There's so much going on in the community that I feel like we're going to need to make this a new segment or maybe a newsletter or something, because there's so much going on. It is 66 days until BCH Bliss, so head to TapSwap and get your tickets right there. Shout out to Bitcoin Cash TV, who is now rating us in the chat. Absolutely legendary. You can still win tickets to Bliss. You have 8 more days until the 18th of March to submit a promotional video for Bliss. We've got one entry, and it was a pretty good entry actually, but they're going to win unless somebody else gets in there. So you've got 8 days, get your creativity cracking, and you could potentially win 2 Jessica NFTs. Now you really want to win those, because not only can you come to Bliss, but I have a fresh announcement. You can now use your Jessica NFT as your profile picture on BCH Guru. So if you're on BCH Guru and you're speculating against people, you can really just flex on them because there's 10,000 gurus, but there's only 100 Jessicas. So if you've got one of those bad boys or bad girls, you're going to be looking like an absolute legend. And that is live right now. So if you have a Jessica NFT and you enjoy a bit of BCH Guru, that's a little collaboration we've brought to you. I also have to shout out the podcast Flipstarter. It hasn't been fully funded yet, and we'll talk about it at the end. But you can go to flipstarter.bitcoincashpodcast.com if you want to support the show and send in sats. And the Selene Flipstarter as well too. Flipstarter.selene.cash, which is currently 220 out of about 270 BCH. Everybody needs to get Callisti paid so that he can pay for his rent. But also me as well, so I can keep chipping away on that. And one last thing as well too, we're having a 5th of Gaming Magic the Gathering tournament on next Friday, which is I think the 16th of March, right? At 7 p.m. EST with David Shattuck and the 5th of Gaming guys and probably Bitcoin Cash TV as well. We're going to do some streams of that, hopefully, and the community can donate sats into that pool, the prize pool as well too, because David is really trying to get a big push of momentum on the platform, and he's only allowed to make one Reddit self-promoting post every month or something like that. So he saved up his Reddit post to the big subreddit where all the Magic players are, and he wants to say, hey guys, we've got like a $3,000 prize pool or $500 or whatever in BCH. Come play and try and win some, and then they try BCH and they get involved and all that. There's been regular Magic tournaments, but he's really ramping it up there. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in BCH, you're interested in Magic, or you just want to try and see the cutting edge stuff that's the apps that are being developed in the ecosystem, then get keen for that. And I guess you can go to fifthofgaming.com and sign up for the Magic tournament. Bruno, any comments on any of that? Like, we're just rattling them off. There's so much going on these days in BCH, right?
Well, yeah, so much going on. It's hard to keep track of everything, even if you spend a decent amount of hours in your day trying to follow everything. But great to hear that I can use the Bliss NFT on the BCH Guru profile. That's pretty cool. What else did you say? Like, there's so many things.
Well, do you have a Bliss
I
NFT?
remember.
Are you coming to
No, I'm not counting that. Yeah, unfortunately,
Okay.
I'm gonna try to make to the Argentina one, but the Bliss one's gonna be hard for me.
Yes. Well, maybe I'll see you at the Argentina one there. But yeah, it's pretty cool because it's just the collaborations. That's why I'm starting to see we're getting to the phase now. In the previous phase of sort of development of the ecosystem, it was like a few projects started popping up, and now it's really getting to the point where the projects are starting to collaborate. You know, they're individually kind of got their shit together enough that they can think, well, what else can we do? And then everyone's on Team BCH, right? So obviously with the podcast by default has to collaborate with people to get them on the show, but even among other things, you're starting to see those connections get made, and it just adds to the benefit of everyone. You got that, you got the flip starters, you got the 5th of Gaming tournament. Have you done any 5th of Gaming?
Not yet. So far, I have just promoted them on my Twitter or X, right? But my computer is not the best to play games, and so I cannot do this right now.
Yeah, I think they've been doing chess tournaments as well. So I don't know that the computer
maybe
requirements.
maybe the chess one, it's doable in my computer, but then I have to remember how to play chess.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder what is going to be. There's going to have to be some strategy to stop people using bots as well too, because you could just have a chess computer and then you could just win, right? Maybe there needs to be some kind of accountability onto that, or I don't know. I'm sure they'll figure out something as the prize pools ramps up and the money starts to get serious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
these anti-cheat will have to be developed.
Yeah, I remember the best chess player in the world back whenever lost to a bunch of AI algorithms or something.
You mean what was that Deep Blue Kasparov in, was it 1999? I can't remember
I
what
don't,
year,
I,
but
yeah, I don't remember either. But I remember like he was playing against a bunch of computers, and I think he had lost to them all or something.
yeah.
Can't
Well,
beat
now
the
it's not even
computers.
close. Computers are coming for us. We're irrelevant. AI is taking our jobs. Jet, what were
But
you
how
gonna say?
boring is it? Like you just press a button and the computer is playing the game for you. Like you just stay in number. I think.
so I haven't used a fifth of gaming yet. Is it only for multiplayer games at the moment?
Well, it's for what do you mean? Like, how would you play a single player game with it? The whole point is to connect you up with other people to play either in a social or a tournament,
We'll do
right?
I
competitions
know
for
you
like
can have
speed runs.
Speed runs,
Speed
okay. I
runs or
think
achievements and that kind of thing. Like I
you could
would
have a guild for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sure. Mario or whatever.
Yeah, I've been playing The Godfather for PSP recently again.
Okay,
Like,
well, you have
I
to
know
start a
you
guild.
can have like a private tournament and public tournaments, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty
and you
cool.
can you can do it, yeah, socially or competitive, right?
mm,
It's fun. It's actually super interesting that Dave was running it for years, where it was just him playing with his mates. So he actually had all the engine and everything running really well, but I guess it never occurred to him, or there was never a need for that competitive element to it. And then when he talked to me, I was like, let's get ladders, let's get a tournament bracket, let's get people like gambling, losing their BCH, because I love that stuff. And I think that's also been kind of successful. Like gamers fall into those two niches, right? Some are more competitive, and some it's more sociable. So that was uh, that was very cool to see. Anyway, that is to say that the ecosystem is popping off at the moment, and I think there's been a
Yeah.
substantial change in the vibe, the morale, and the
One
also amount of action.
one thing I would like to know is I know that Twitch is big on online gaming, but the communication is going on with the inside Fifth of Gaming is on Discord, I think. So I was wondering if he's being able to get all these people from Twitch to come into the Fifth of Gaming to try it out. You know anything about that?
Well, I know that I personally kind of dislike Discord whenever I use it. I must be too old because it confuses the hell out of me. Like I understand Slack, I understand apps that have, various different chat windows, Telegram, whatever. But the Discord is just so confusing, and the color scheme is kind of a bit of a mess and everything. But
Yeah,
obviously it's very, very popular in that kind of gaming niches. So I mean,
not
I
more than
think you
Twitch
can
then.
have. Well, the thing is, Twitch is for the streaming, but then, and obviously you can chat in there too, but it's not like built for that. Whereas Discord is built for you to have your chat
Oh,
windows
okay.
with everyone and your
All
emoji
right.
reactions, and people can link directly into their community. Like in Twitch, if you're not live, you can't just put up a link and say, "Guys, come chat to us here," because if you're not live, then there's going to be nothing, right? So it's more of a persistent chat thing. But it was pretty cool that he built in that integration too, because that was another big sticking point when we were running the tournaments, was people needed to talk to the admins, hey, when's my next game, or what's going on here, guys. So that's all slowly getting slicker and slicker as well too. If anybody hasn't looked at a fifth of gaming in a while, you should take a fresh look. It's been improved massively in the last few months as well too. Okay,
I remember
so go on.
I remember a comedian a bit saying that one of the most fun things about playing games online with a bunch of people is to give everyone you beat, like, call them bad names and yell at them. So like that was the most fun part for him. Like even I think it was Louis C.K. who said that, and he was playing against this very young kid and telling him the worst bad names you can call, and very aggressively. And so that's
Yes.
the bit.
the old bad manner. I'm certainly a what do you call it? Not a victim, a proponent. Not even is the right word, but I'm involved in that. Let's say, like nowadays, I'm much more chill. But back when I was very competitive on StarCraft, I used to love it. I just love that.
Screaming at
That's
13-year-olds.
no, because there's no voice chat in StarCraft, you know. So what you would do is you would have them like on the edge of defeat, and then you would start trash talking them in the chat, you know, as they're watching all their little armies get destroyed or like whatever, you know. Once you're actually like, I've won, but if they're refusing to leave, and then that would prolong the game a bit because they wouldn't, you know, just surrender and end it, then they would want to argue back, and so you'd have a nice fun time explaining how terrible they were to them, you know. But it's pretty psychologically unhealthy, that pattern of behavior, to be honest. So I'm glad I sort of got over that, but it was at the time where I was at.
Take that, you worthless piece of, you know what?
Yes, exactly. Well, I would no, my strategy was a bit more subtle. My trash talk, it would be more like explaining to them exactly what they did wrong, you know, so to really like drive it home how, you know, inferior they were or how stupid they were or something. But because usually as well, I would just love to get people to rage quit because I would play random, right? So you spawn as either Protoss, Terran or Zerg, but usually people know which one they're playing against, so they have a prepared strategy. But if you spawn as any, then obviously you're at a disadvantage because you have to know how to play all the three options. But the very tiny advantage you get is that when you spawn, they don't know what race you are, right? So I would, you know, use that to my advantage. I had all these cheesy strategies and stuff that relied on them, like not really scouting, and so then that would inflame it even further. Yeah, it was great. Love it. So yeah, next time you guys match me in a fog tournament, feel free to start the trash talk. I'm there for it. On the on the winning or losing side. I always enjoy it. All right. Bruno, our guest today, you are a BCH promoter and enthusiast and heavily involved in lots of different things in the ecosystem. You're very passionately promoting all kinds of projects and things that are happening. So tell me, because I actually have no idea, how did you get into Bitcoin?
Well, I was in my last year in the university back in 2011, and I was checking the news online, and I saw this headline: "Oh, Bitcoin was traded for $1, or it's worth $1, or something like that." I didn't know what it was. I thought it was some tech company stock or something. I read about it a little bit, but I kind of dismissed it, forgot about it, and moved on. And later, like fast forward a few years, I got into Austrian economics. So I read books like The Case Against the Fed, What Has Government Done to Our Money by Murray Rothbard, The Theory of Money and Credit by Ludwig von Mises. So I started learning about sound money, stuff like that. And I was convinced of the case for gold. So I was kind of interested in gold and silver. And in Brazil back then was terrible to buy precious metals. You couldn't even buy the real thing. You could only buy like a certificate of gold or something, a mini contract, like they say, and super regulated, a lot of fees, like crazy. So I try to find a way to go around this, and I found Peter Schiff, I found Mike Maloney, and I read his book, How to Invest in Gold and Silver, and I'm gonna buy precious metals from this guy, Mike Maloney. This guy seems cool. And if on the website at the time, there was only three payment methods: international, credit card. But if you are in Brazil and you use your international credit card, the government tax it. It's like a tax on financial operations. It's a tax that only, and the fees were crazy and taxes. So no, I'm not going to do that. The other option was Bitcoin, but Bitcoin was already like high fees and long confirmation times, all this stuff. And I have heard already about Bitcoin Cash because by accident I stumbled upon a Roger Ver interview, and he told you a story that he renounced his U.S. citizenship. That to me was very surprising because everyone I know pretty much would love to have the U.S. citizenship, and this guy is renouncing it. So like, whoa, what else does this guy have to say? Then he starts explaining Bitcoin and the block size wars, or the scaling wars, as other people like to put it. And so he told the story about how Bitcoin Cash has a way better user experience, and the fees were negligible and all this. So okay, I had Bitcoin Cash in the back of my mind, but I wasn't really doing anything with it yet. But when I saw on the website that Bitcoin Cash was an option to buy gold abroad without paying taxes, with negligible fees, I was like, that's it. So I started using Bitcoin Cash to buy gold, and I didn't care if the gold was going to stay in a vault, I don't know, in Singapore, whatever. I didn't care. Anything was better than to try to do it in Brazil. Now it's better. There are companies now that you can actually buy the real thing, but back then was crazy. So that's pretty much how I started. And I never bought Bitcoin. I just used Bitcoin Cash since the beginning, and all that, like best user experience, negligible fees. Like, what else?
Yeah. Well,
What else do you need?
Exactly. Shout out to Mike Maloney, who is also a Bitcoin casher. He said on several occasions, I think he talked to Roger or he talked to somebody, maybe Kim, I don't know. He talked to somebody and was kind of like, yeah, this actually makes sense. Bitcoin Cash. He's a smart guy. So he has a stack sitting somewhere that he's referenced a couple of times. And I guess obviously he's accepting it on his web. He's like Peter Schiff without all the crypto copes, so he's actually got a lot of it together. But do you still have any gold, or have you now switched
No, no,
fully?
no. I sold. As I was learning about Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin Cash like outperforming gold and silver and BCH Blue as well, so it started making sense to have precious metals. I had to pay like the vault fee, because they were uh, keeping custody of the precious metals. And so I sold. I didn't have a lot either. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination. So the little that I had, I sold, and I just started, putting more in Bitcoin Cash and BCH Blue. The only thing I didn't like about the gold and silver side is because you could buy gold with Bitcoin Cash, but when you wanted to sell your precious metals back to them, you couldn't get Bitcoin Cash back. So that was the only thing I didn't like. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah, and what about all the other stuff in the market? What about Ethereum? What about Litecoin? What about Dogecoin? Did you ever get interested or excited about any of that, or it was just you tried to buy the gold, that was one of the options, boom, and you never needed to change?
Yeah, in the beginning, I didn't know much about other coins, and they didn't have that reference. I think that reference is really important. Like, oh, I heard of this one. Like this guy who has a reputation talk good things about this. So I think that keeps in the back of your mind when you make your decision, right? So I didn't care about any other coins. The only time I had other coins was when the smart BCH stuff was going on. So you had to swap to Binance BCH, and those swaps to make the bridge. I think that was the only time I mess with other coins, but mostly Bitcoin Cash since the beginning.
And like you said, you're in Brazil, so I don't know if you want to say more about where you are or anything like that. But what's for people, I've never been to Brazil, although I would love to go. What's the cryptocurrency scene like there, and just overall the population's attitude towards crypto?
Well, unfortunately for Bitcoin Cash, I don't know a lot of people who have even heard of it. For a long time, I thought I was the only Brazilian using Bitcoin Cash because I was going in Zapit peer-to-peer exchange and many offers from a bunch of countries, zero from Brazil, or even in BitGree, I would go there and see all the flags, but no Brazilian flag there. So am I the only Brazilian using Bitcoin Cash? That can't be. And later I found a Telegram group with that name, BCH Brazil. Like, everyone was just attaching the name of the country at the end to come up with the name and start promoting Bitcoin Cash. So I found this Telegram group with more people, and recently I found an X account, Twitter account that has the same name, but I think it's not the same people who just using the same name. And so there are more Brazilians now, and we're kind of in this group, in this Brazilian group on Telegram, I spoke about usage pool. I did the things I always do, like just promote everything that's going on in Bitcoin Cash right now, so people can start using BCH Guru, BCH Pool, like all the different wallets, Shilling wallet, and but I think it's still very, very early days here in Brazil. I was even like, for example, I I have a degree in exercise science, and I had clients outside, like abroad in Europe, wherever, and I was using Zapit to do on and off ramping with my clients. So I was doing things with other people in other countries, and I couldn't find a single soul in Brazil to trade with me. But hopefully that's going to change soon.
Yes. What about that? So that's BCH. What about the rest of crypto, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc.? All of that. Is
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
Brazilian public receptive to that? I mean, you're in
yeah,
South
yeah,
America,
yeah.
which is strong crypto, continent, right?
Yeah, sure. Like Bitcoin is big here, Ethereum, and all these other ones, Solana, Polygon. You can find YouTube videos of Brazilian people promoting all these other projects, and but not so much about Bitcoin Cash yet, unfortunately. And I think the little ones that I found wasn't even positive for Bitcoin Cash, but that just based on pure ignorance. Like the guy had no idea, had know nothing about the coin, just heard some dumb thing from another ignorant person and repeated that. But I was thinking like how brave this guy has to be to put his face on YouTube saying so much, you know, dumb things. That's gonna be here forever. And the guy has no shame, just gonna repeat dumb things about a coin he has no knowledge about. And so
Just goes to show the
hopefully,
propaganda spreads everywhere, into every corner of the world. It somehow gets there, right?
yeah, and it's funny, it's the same things. Like, oh, Bitcoin Cash has no devs. Like, what? Where did you get that? Where did you get that? You know? And I keep repeating, like, after a while, I got mad and I started engaging with these guys a little bit. And I was saying things like, okay, man, don't trust verify. I haven't heard of don't trust verify. So just hear something you don't verify, you just repeating the dumb thing you heard from someone even more stupid than you. Like, what's going on?
This is the trash talk starting up again. I think you need to get on a fifth of gaming, mate. You could be in the trash talking away. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Don't trust verify. We just verified that you suck. All right.
It's established that you suck.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Well, we got to check in on the markets as we do every week. We're in the bull market. It seems that it's finally here for listeners of the show, years of me saying, don't worry, guys, it'll turn around and all that in crypto and in BCH. Well, it seems like it's starting to happen. Today, Bitcoin Cash is $432 and 57 cents, up from about $270 on the previous episode, which was a few weeks ago because we had a break for a couple of weeks. But anyway, we're big in the greens. One BTC buys only 158.3 BCH, so we've improved not only against the dollar but significantly against BTC as well. One ETH buys 9.07 BCH, so we've also improved against ETH a little bit. So just happy days for BCH all around. That April 4th will be the halving date for BCH. We're front running the BTC halving by it's about 2 or 3 weeks, I believe. So it's only 26 days away. So that may also be playing into why we're getting some nice price action. But maybe that also still needs to kick in as time goes on, right? People tend to get bullish around the halving. So what do you make of the cryptocurrency market moves then?
Well, like I check the price every day. I know you asked that to most guests. I check the price pretty much every day, and depending on how well my positions in BCH Pool are doing, I check it many times a day. And now with BCH Guru, you can like speculate on the future price, and so that's been fun. And just today, I won a game and like 20,000 euros in my pocket, bro. Like so. In speaking of BCH Guru, like just today they have updated the community. What's the name again? The community stats or something.
The dashboard, right?
So
There's
now,
now a leaderboard, I think.
Yeah, the community dashboard. So you can pretty much, have a sense of how bullish or bearish everybody else is right now. And I think could get valuable information from this to speculate other things like BCH Pool or whatever. Like you can get more information. The more information, the better, right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Well, it's almost like a decentralized, we've got a bit of a prediction market going on here. I'm just having a quick look at it now. So 346 games have been completed on BCH Guru, 2,700,000 roughly all-time Furu staked, and they have a leaderboard here. So the best player is called Guru _ OG, who obviously if they're predicting the price, we better pay attention. And the second one, rank 2 is Stock Leasy, who has played 103 games. So that is super impressive. If you're number 2 with that kind of sample size, that's not an accident. That's way above, random statistics. Bruno, you're on here too, mate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're number 6.
Really? I don't know Stocks Sleazy. That's his name.
Stock Leasy, yeah.
Yeah, like I had a few games with him, and I think so far we're kind of even.
Yes.
Maybe he was ahead of me a couple of games, but I beat him a few times.
6, 7, 8,
I
9,
beat
10,
him a few
11,
times,
12. Yeah, 13. And at rank 14, you have Jessica checking in as well too. So the leaderboard is ramping up as people get involved. I love this. I've been asking for the leaderboard for a while, and I think we need leaderboards in everything. We need leaderboards in Selene, leaderboards at Fifth of Gaming, leaderboards. Imagine the BCH Bull leaderboards. Like that would be absolutely crazy.
Dynapons taking everybody's wallets.
Yes, Dynapons, and then you first you have a leaderboard, and then you have a invest with Dynapons button, right? That you can just put your money onto the same contracts as him. Boom, boom. That's it. Then everybody can be Dynapawns. So that's that's what I'm looking forward to.
There can be only one.
Exactly. In Dynapawns we trust. You gotta protect that That guy, the
Yeah.
absolute market whisperer, Well, I've got to ask him, is he on this list somewhere? He's maybe he hasn't been doing much BCH Guru, because I no doubt he could rank up on this as well too.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I'm on the list too, but I'm in the negatives. I'm overall position. I'm down. I'm losing. So rip me, I guess. Don't take my market advice. There you go. You've got statistical evidence that I suck at it.
If you're listening to the
I
show right
learned from the
now,
mistakes.
go open a position. I tried to do 3 different games and they all expired before anyone took them. So go play. Go play more.
Give it a go and
Yeah.
use your Jessica NFT if you're going to be at Bliss, because then we can be repping the marketing that, as it happens. But one other thing I wanted to touch on the markets was BCH was right now at number 18, but it was up to 17. And earlier today, I also saw Litecoin dropped out of the top 20. They have snuck back in, but they were down to number 21. And I obviously am not here to shit on Litecoin and say it's a rubbish project or anything, but I think it's very relevant because we had Litecoin Underground on the show on the 2nd of January 2023. At that time, BCH was number 27, so it's now basically gained 10 ranks. And at the time, Litecoin was number 12, and it moved up to number 9. So it now, is out of the top 20. So you can just see that the BCH community is on the right track, right? The markets are obviously volatile and so forth, but they do, in the big picture, tell a story, right? There is some real signal there, and that kind of reversal just shows that we're going in the right direction. I'm kind of wondering at what point, like Litecoin Underground, a couple of those guys, if I poke them about it, they're still a bit salty and defensive. And now, like, we're bigger than them, so it's just talking down to trash talk. Like I'm saving the trash talk on them, but I wonder how much they're gonna have to keep getting wrecked before because I've been shilling them since we were 27 and they were 12. Like, we're coming, guys. The PCH is getting better. It's on the up and up, blah, 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 blah. Regularly. And they never fucking listen to me. And they're still not listening. So I wonder what point is the, cognitive dissonance going to break? That's always fascinating to see, right?
Yeah, it's crazy because it sounds to me like a team sports mentality, right? You pick a team and doesn't matter how bad it sucks, and we'll keep cheering for it. And even with other teams doing much better than your team, you're still gonna trash talk to them and think your team is the best it ever was.
There's one LTC account that's pretty active on X, and I can't remember what the hell his handle is or what his name is.
There's that Shan Bellu guy, Master LTC, BTC.
It was always like, now's the time, trade your BCH for LTC. And it's not like, I don't think there's ever any convincing him. I think it'll just be like a doubling down on Cope forever.
Yes.
Amazing account to watch, seeing this trend reversal.
Yes, exactly. I mean, obviously, we shouldn't be too sort of jubilant about it in the sense that, like, BCH was in the same position, right? That's why it was losing for so many years, because the community had all this fake bullshit that it believed, and nobody had come in and said, right, okay, you got to drop all this, you got to just, snap back to reality. Shout out Eminem, and get your get yourself moving in the right direction. You gotta. Now I'm trying to, like, jam it in there too much. I was trying to think how I could get Mum's spaghetti in there, or, like, you can't lose yourself in the moments. Okay, if you've got one chance, one opportunity to make your coin the best in the whole markets, would you grab it? Well, the BCH community is, and Litecoin, you got some catching up to do, but yeah, they're not listening to my advice, so they're welcome to ask for it anytime. Obviously, switch to BCH will actually fix your problem.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy. Like, for example, I know I see on the groups people spend a lot of time talking about sharing their coin to other coiners, like, and I wonder, like, how productive is it? Because most people don't know about any coin at all, and the people who are engaged enough to be in Twitter talking about it or in Telegram groups, they are already kind of convinced of their own coin, whatever it is. So it's way harder to get a person like that on board than a person who is a non-coiner, right? And I remember like Roger Ver making an argument like, oh, you can say that Bitcoin it's for self-custody and all this, but sometimes what the other person wants to hear is like, oh, you can buy something on Amazon with 10% discount with this. That sometimes this is the fastest track, you know. So I don't know, man. Like for example, here in Brazil, every commerce has this machine. You have to rent or buy a machine, and on top of that, you have to pay a fee to accept payments, debit cards, and credit cards. And like with BCH, you just download an app and pay no fees to receive payments, and you can hedge against US dollar, gold, and BCH. Like we already have so much to offer to these people who have never heard of anything. I don't know. I think that's where our focus should be on. I know it's fun to talk trash to people who hold other coins, but I don't know if that's the most effective way to get there, man, you know?
Yeah, well, I've got some thoughts on this because ultimately you're right, right? It's much harder to convince somebody who's, or like you said, they're already tribally bought in, they've already bought their coins, they already looked at a few and decided they liked that one for whatever reason. You're probably not really going to be able to change their mind necessarily. So like me telling Litecoin Underground, like you're going to zero, my friend. Like time to rebrand to green. Like we would love to have you and all that stuff, right? It's I'm not really expecting it to work, right? I'm not expecting him to one day be like, oh, well, eventually he will, but right, not in any you know, foreseeable time frame, right? That he would be, oh, Jeremy was right. Let me just ditch this whole Litecoin Underground and be BCH Underground and be on a winning team. I'm not expecting that at all. But I still discuss and negotiate and banter with him for a different reason, which is like you say, the people who are into crypto are the ones who are already fired up and passionate. So they're actually the ones who are interested, right? So it's a double-edged sword. They've already picked a team, but on the other hand, they're on a team, you know, as opposed to people who are like, I don't care about football, right? Shilling to them is like pointless as well too. Like the no coiners, some of the time, if they don't care, they don't care, right? And at the end of the day, the vast majority of the no coiners will just go with whatever kind of comes out of this battle of all the different cryptos in there.
Yeah,
So if
okay, I see what you're saying.
so if I'm arguing with Litecoin Underground, I'm probably not going to change his mind, but either we can have an argument or even just a discussion. Even like I'm friendly with him, he's actually a cool guy. But what I'm going for is that I'm not going to change him, but there's going to be cross-pollination of our audiences, right? If I'm talking to him, my audience is going to be interested in what he's got to say, and his audience will be interested in what I've got to say. And at the edges, there's people who aren't so tribal about being bought into one coin or another, or maybe they just have their mind open somehow, and then they kind of switch across. So because he already has an audience that is interested in cryptos, if I have better arguments than him, then more of his audience will start listening to me, then my audience will start listening to him, right? So that's my strategy, is to find it's one strategy, right? Yeah. So we got to just find, and I think everyone in BCH can do that, right? It's not, just me. It doesn't matter. It's the overall thing. Anytime you're having any debates at a meetup, in person, online, on a show you're on, like whatever, like just at the grocery store, who knows, at a dinner party, every time you're just representing Team BCH. And if you have a more compelling argument over time, that just adds up in aggregate, which is why now we're doing well, right? So because the community stopped making terrible arguments and started making good ones, right? in mass. So yeah, that's great to see. Okay, we got meme of the week, which is appearing very early in the show today. It's this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio in the Great Gatsby, and he's lifting up the wine glass, looking really fancy in his suit. Bitcoin Cash passing $400 last week, and then it's contrasted with below it, it's Leonardo DiCaprio again in, I think this movie was it called The Remnant or The Unwanted or something like that. Anyway, that movie where he's like in the forest in the snow or whatever. Anyway, he's looking really wrecked, and it says Bitcoin Cash at $421 today. So obviously the joke is the price is actually higher now than it was, but it feels a lot worse. And I thought this was spot on because, like I said, we're way up from where we were last show, but we also we went up to 550-ish, I think. And so then when you crash down, suddenly 420 feels terrible. It's like, oh no, we're going backwards. It's just anchor bias, right?
Yeah, like I wonder how much of this is like, the people, the enemies of Bitcoin Cash suppressing, or just people actually, okay, just gonna enjoy a little bit of this and spend too much.
Yeah, exactly. I just find it fascinating how the human psychology is such, right, that everybody over time accepts the truth kind of in waves. So like now, everybody would say a $5,000 BTC is cheap. Almost everyone in the world would agree with that. But there was a time when nobody agreed with that. And as it was going past that price point,
Yeah.
some people agreed and some people disagreed, right? And who was right or wrong, it kind of comes out in the wash, right? So it's sort of the same thing. Like in my mind, even if 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago the price was $270, if you told me the price is 420, I would be ecstatic. But now I'm kind of like, yeah, we can do better. Everything's relative, right?
Yeah, like about that again, like earlier today, I was listening to a podcast from the Mises Institute. Professor Mark Bortin was saying about gold that, so gold has hit an all-time high and not a bit in the media, like nobody is talking about it. And actually, there was one guest in one TV show that brought up the fact that gold has had a new all-time high. And the presenter wanted to change the subject really quick, like not to let any more of that gold talk in his show, And if they are doing this to gold, like Bitcoin Cash is, like way less mainstream than gold, obviously. So that much harder we have to, like educate everyone about it. So, so we can break this barrier.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's kind of leading into our next topic, which is that even so, BCH has been doing pretty well against the market, but like I said, it was even doing better. Not a peep, not a fucking word in any of these crypto news outlets or whatever. I think Bitcoin.com sort of maybe did something, but all the other ones, CoinDesk and the Coinbase news alerts and blah blah blah, like all these other ones, nothing. If Dogecoin is up, 50%, it's on everybody's front page news. But if BCH is up, nada, zilch, zero. So it's always been the case. And for people that are new to the community, you can now see it in action. I love bringing this up every time it happens because I know there's always new people listening to the show and you can see that all this stuff about censorship and being ignored and cut out of the conversation and stuff, not making it up, it's still heavily in effect, right? So obviously that's why it's good that you're listening to the show because here you can actually get the truth about it. But also, if you are interested in Bitcoin Cash, make an effort to try and be more involved in things. Like try and join some of the Telegram groups or join a local meetup or whatever, because that's the only way the information ultimately gets around there. Because you're just not just going to come up as trending on whatever is in the sort of regular discussion, right? Do you have any thoughts on how we can do better at breaking through all this cone of silence that is constantly sitting over us?
Well, for example, a year ago, I went to another state for vacation, and I had a haircut over there. And I convinced the barber to accept Bitcoin Cash as payment for my haircut. And I helped him download a wallet. I showed him how I could accept payments with Bitcoin Cash. I paid for the cut in Bitcoin Cash. And like 1 year later, Bitcoin Cash is up 250%. The guy calls me, hey man, how can I buy more of this? And then I remember telling him back then that, oh, you should accept this. You should like provide this as an option. You know, you will keep getting payment in fiat. Like most people will probably keep paying you in fiat, at least for now. But it's interesting to have this as an option as well. Like, you know, and I even told him like, oh, I saw in a restaurant, like if you paid cash, you could get a 10% discount. So you can offer a discount for people who are willing to pay you with Bitcoin Cash, because it is cash, it's digital cash, right? So I told all that to him like a year ago, but probably that was a part that didn't stick with him much. But like yesterday, when he was asking me how could he, because he kept the app on the phone and he saw the number going up, you know, so like he's on his phone, like he can see the number going up. So, hey man, remember me? Blah, blah, blah. How can I buy more of this? And so everything I told him a year ago, I told him all over again, but sending links to like the cash register app, both from Bitcoin.com and Paytaka, how you can be on a map and all this. So I think sometimes this small thing, you know, it's can have a lot of small things sometimes is bigger than one big TV thing, let's say. You know?
Yes, exactly. And it's that grassroots strategy. Everybody should be in that mindset of when you're trying to promote or discuss BCH or even crypto generally, but BCH specifically with people. Yeah, the best thing to do, if you can, give people a wallet and give them just a small amount, because in the long run, the price will rise and then they'll be like, whoa.
Yeah,
And that might
it's
take a
funny.
while, but there's no rush. It's always sitting in their mind, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because even like closer friends or relatives who have spoken about it, and even people who are really, oh, I don't want nothing to do with this. This is tricky for me. Like I don't trust this. When they hear from wherever source that the price went up so much, even those who are super against in the beginning are now reaching out to you to ask you how can I get this? How can I get involved with this? So
Yeah.
you know,
And it's also as well too, you never know, like the price is one good thing, but you also never know what other factor will suddenly clue someone in, because I've had
yeah,
people reaching out to me where it's suddenly like, oh, I read this article and like the Canadian truckers got censored or something, and suddenly it clicked in my mind like, oh, this is
yeah,
what you were talking about. This is the kind of situation that we could be in more, and if we had an alternative, that would be better. Or if it's, oh, I didn't really get what you were saying, but then I was on holiday in this other place and I saw a Bitcoin Cash accepted here sticker, and I thought, wait, this is not just you talking about it, it's happening all over the world. And you never know what somebody is going to, like, what is going to cause somebody to switch their interest on. So you just have to prepare the soil and then be patient and let the seedling grow. That's kind of how it works. And then be ready when they come to you to say, yeah, let me help you out. Here's some good links. Here's where you can read up on more. Because you may or may not have all day to sit there and walk them through everything. But instead, if you just give them the resources, then they can look into it in their own time and come back with more questions. And you do it like that, right?
sure.
Yeah.
I'm confident that this single barber is going to spread Bitcoin Cash to the whole city because it was a very small town. This place I went. So I don't know. Maybe this guy's gonna get the whole city because he saw the thing. You know, like I got the payment, everything that Bitcoin Cash, can provide. So I think he's gonna
Yes.
get the entire city. I'm gonna help him.
Yes, that's great. And that's another important lesson, right? Sometimes it only takes one, right? The difference between 0 and 1 is huge. The difference between 1 and 2 is a bit smaller. 2 and 3, much smaller. 3 to hundreds, like you're flying, right? So it's really just about yeah, having patience, create the seedling, somebody gets interested, then they come back to you for more, and then they start promoting it themselves, and then now they're inadvertently or not spreading those same seedlings, right? I read this, I don't know whether it was a paper or I just read an article about it or something, but it was this idea that humans have, like, your opinion, right, is based on your experiences. Now, your experiences are probably on a sort of a bell curve, right? So, like, let's say I've had 10 good experiences with pizza restaurants, but I had one time I got food poisoning and that kind of sucked, right? So my bell curve is like 1 point on this side and then a few that were kind of average and a few that were really good. And so if you came to me and said, Jeremy, pizza is the world's worst food, I'm going to be hard to convince about that. But it could be the case that it is. I've just happened to get good pizzas. But the only way you would convince me is if you showed me another pizza restaurant and another one and another one and another one, and it would take until I had like 20 data points on the other side of the bell curve for my, because my opinion is going to be the average of all those data points, right? That then it will slowly shift across. So if somebody doesn't understand crypto or BCH or they disagree with you, no coiner or not, you've just got to focus on gently providing more, just a few more of those little data points, and then they all add up in the end, right? And then when they change their mind at the end and they come and say, "Oh, Bitcoin Cash is the best," they don't even realize what you could play them back the tape of them telling you at the start, "This is stupid." They would never like accept that they had moved so much on their previous position, right? Okay. All right. One other little way of spreading BCH that I think we can talk about a little bit is in recently the Bitcoin Cash Telegram group got a bit sort of caught up in the What Bitcoin Did Telegram group. So people who don't know what Bitcoin Did is probably, I think it's the number one largest BTC podcast by this guy Peter McCormack, and his version of Jet is called Danny, and they have it's like laughing, yeah. And anyway, they have this huge millions and millions of downloads, etc., etc. Well, Gravy Maker, who's a BCH podcast Telegram regular, he somehow found out that he found out that they had a Telegram group, and then he went in there and started talking to them. And instead of getting banned and deleted like you would usually expect, they actually started chatting to him a little bit. So then he mentioned that to us, and then a bunch of other BCHs like went in the Telegram group and started having this debate in their Telegram group. And to be honest, at the start it was a bit over the top, like everybody just did too much debating. But the rules are you can't really promote other coins, you can't talk about BCH, etc. So everybody is trying to like toe the line of speaking about BTC, Bitcoin, and only, maybe pointing out some flaws, but not really saying, look, guys, we've got an answer, right? Too much. Anyway, this has all like quietened down a little bit, and thankfully we didn't all step over the line and get banned. But it was quite significant because it's now at the point where the BCH community, we started out with our own spaces under attack and all trolls and blah blah blah. You're wrong and price graphs and all that. That's all been kind of defeated. And so now it's going the other way. Now the BCH community can start going into other people's spaces and talking to them about their coins or about BCH if the rules allow it in their spaces. So I've got some advice for anybody. Firstly, I think you should do this if you can, but there's a few important things you've got to keep in mind. Number one is if you're in somebody else's room, it's their room. If their rules are you can't talk about BCH, follow the rules. Don't talk about it. If their rules are you can only talk about our coin, then only talk about their coin. But first, you have to show that you'll be part of their rules and add value. You have to have an interesting conversation. You have to bring in some, funny memes or like whatever it is, build up credibility in that space. And, probably your name or your profile picture or something can maybe be BCH related. And the point is that when people in that room get interested in BCH, they have a point of contact. This is the reverse of what we said about those seedlings. You go out there and you spread it to people. Well, sometimes people don't want to hear it at all, but you can still give them a contact point for when they do want somebody to talk to. Then they'll, click on your profile, they'll send you a message, or they'll want to talk to you or whatever. So it's critical to
Has that happened? Has that happened like after your interaction with that group?
Well, with
I remember you were
Yeah.
the what Bitcoin did. I remember you were following the rules there. Even some guy was trying to make so, as you were talking about Bitcoin Cash, when you weren't at all, just, I don't know, maybe to try to get you kicked out of the group or something. But then you, oh no, I'm here respecting everything, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just presenting arguments about Bitcoin, not talking about Bitcoin Cash at all. And so I'm just curious, like, anyone talk to you in private after that or something?
Well, see, I had this sort of a little bit, yes, in the sense that one of the guys was asking some questions about Bitcoin, and I couldn't give him, some of the answers he needed to do. So I sent him a direct message, and he was actually a really cool guy. And so we had a bit of a chat, and he was, happy to discuss about it, right? So sometimes it's even just those venues can create those interactions. And we had also some other people who commented in their group because the mod was saying, okay, this seems like it's going off track. People are just, trying to sneakily promote BCH or whatever. And a couple, I think at least one guy, maybe a couple, chimed in and said, like, no, I found this really interesting. Like, I disagree with them, but I at least have got, it's been interesting to hear their perspective and such like that. So especially when it comes to the BTC people, because there's so much history and baggage and whatever, the critical thing is to just stick to the fundamentals. Bitcoin should be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It needs to be an alternative money. You need to be able to use it non-custodially. If you don't, deviate from that, that's the kind of thing that nobody can really dispute. And if you stick to those and show that you're following those principles and giving advice to other people to do those principles, then you will come to be seen as a legitimate Bitcoiner, not some shitcoiner, blah, blah, blah. And then from that point, obviously you can branch out into other topics, but maybe in a different space. That's the other critical thing is then people, not in this what Bitcoin did, but the other day we had a what's it called? Twitter Spaces. And now a couple of BTC people have started to come and talk to us, which is amazing. So shout out to Bitcoin Apostle and Bitcoin is the Revolution on Twitter. They were talking to us in a BCH space, and they had some questions, we had some answers, and we discussed back and forth a little bit. So even if it's censored or there's weird rules or restrictions in their side, if you can just present well, then sooner or later it starts to trickle the other way. And then obviously you can discuss from there in a different environment.
Yeah, like one of the things I tell BTC guys is if you read the first paragraph of the white paper, you will realize that Bitcoin was created to first eliminate the intermediaries, and because of this, provide a cheaper transaction cost relative to the alternative, right? And BTC is the opposite of that. So, and then I had a guy saying that, you know what, I don't care about what Satoshi said. They are to this level now. Like, I don't care about what the creator of the thing has said about it because I now believe this other thing. Like, crazy. But that get to them, like was created to provide cheaper transaction costs without intermediaries. So that's what it was created for. And the guy's like, oh, I don't know what to say. Repeat the same dumb things I've heard.
Yes, but if they say that, and this is a classic, they have these like fallback arguments, right? There's a bunch of them. So this is the example of like you say like Bitcoin was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and then they can't really dispute that because that's in the white paper and all that. And then they used to say no, BTC is the real Bitcoin. Now they've given that up. They all, like you're saying, like they can't really dispute it anymore. Satoshi agreed. There was also this big emails set of like old emails that came out with the Craig Wright trial as part of that. and what came out, and then all these people commenting, wow, I didn't have any idea that Satoshi was a big block, because in those emails, Satoshi is saying like, guys, we should just scale up, we'll do millions of transactions, blah, 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 blah. And they're all like shocked, even though it's basically the same stuff that we already knew. But that just goes to show how censorship, damped the ability of people to actually get to the bottom of things. But anyway, the point is they say, oh, but I don't care what Satoshi said. Then they try and move the argument to, you're just believing blindly in Satoshi. And then the counter to that is you say, no, I'm not saying Satoshi is right because it was Satoshi. This is not about worshiping Satoshi, but Satoshi was a good engineer and had some good ideas. And so that's why, like, Newton's laws of physics are not great because Newton came up with them, but Newton was the smart guy and his laws are correct, right? So you've got to give them an example like that. And then once you've done that, now they're just like completely shit out of luck. The same way that if they say, oh, the blocks are going to centralize, if the blocks go up 1 megabyte, it's going to centralize and it's going to be really bad. And then you say to them, okay, so why wouldn't you lower the blocks to 100 kilobytes? And then now they're stuck because now they're in your position trying to make the argument why it needs to be bigger. And if they give arguments, if they can't admit like, oh, it should be 100 kilobytes, and if they will admit, oh, it should be 100 kilobytes, you say, well, why not 10 kilobytes? Why not 1 kilobyte? Eventually, you have to get them to agree with you that there's a compromise. You need a certain amount of transactions, you need a certain amount of decentralization, and from there, you've already kind of won. So, yeah.
Yeah, another crazy thing I've heard is like, oh, SPV never worked. Like, I will never have a SPV coin. Yeah, that's why we have Greg coin. You don't like SPV. You have a coin that don't use SPV, so you don't have Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was created like SPV was in there.
Yes, it was in the white paper, exactly. And at a certain point, with arguments like that, you just say, look, I've got reality proves you wrong. Here's my Selene wallet. This is using SPV. It works. What's the argument against that? And they just kind of don't have any at a certain point.
I wish I could have a metric of how accurate SPV is, so we could show them this number, because they think SPV is not that trustworthy. So, you should have a full node because SPV is not that trustworthy. Okay, so here's how accurate SPV is. Show them that and see what they say.
Yeah, maybe we need to look into that. But it's one of those things where it's a bit of a gray area, right? And that's another thing where if they say something like, it's better to run a full node than SPV, if you say, no, you've lost them. You say, yes, it is better to run a full node than SPV, but it's only a little bit better. And is it worth sacrificing non-custodial access to billions of people in the world so that a tiny minority of people are the only ones running nodes? Like, what about El Salvador? You guys have done all this adoption there. People are using Chivo wallets and Wallet of Satoshi. Wouldn't it be better if they had SPV wallets? And you work through it that way. But it's not. I don't know if there's possible to boil down to a number, because
because I remember Satoshi said in the white paper that it's highly accurate or something like that. I don't know the exact phrase he used, but it's like a high level of confidence you can have on SPV. It's right there in the white paper.
Yes. But, okay, there's the stats at the end where he says like after how many blocks. And you get to that. Yeah. So that's also maybe that's also a kind of argument that we can make, is like, once you have a few confirmations and the proof of work adds up, then your SPV is approaching as good as a full node anyway, right? But I mean, you've got to understand that a lot of these guys, they're very paranoid about the whole like full nodes thing. So anything that is not, I don't have my full node and I can't trust everything, that's just instantly for them like the whole system is wrecked. So in that case, you need to say to them like, let's look at the numbers. How much does it cost to run a BCH node versus a BTC node? Well, the BCH blockchain is actually smaller right now, so you could run a BCH node. And then they say, well, if you get loads of transactions, then it will be more expensive. And you'll say, yes, but that indicates a growing economy. So the coin price will also be going up. So you'll have more resources, and the cost of technology is decreasing. How much does one hard drive cost today versus 10 years ago, and likely in 10 years, right? And you just walk through, like, as well, if you can make it specific when it comes to those hardware arguments, you say, let's look it up right now. And then you Google up how much is a what did we say the other day? It was like something like a 18 terabyte hard drive was 300 $300, and that's enough for like 16 megabyte blocks or 32 megabyte blocks for the next 10 years, right? So it's like a $30 per year cost, even if the BCH economy is going flat out at the current max capacity. Those numbers might be slightly off, right? I'm remembering offhand, but the point is, once you break it down to those specific numbers, they can't dispute that, because you're like, look, we can just calculate how many transactions, how many big are the blocks, 144 blocks a day, and how much does it cost to buy a hard drive? And then once you get it to that number, it's pretty hard to say, look, if you don't have $30, then how are you going to pay for your $30 BTC transaction fee? And they're just, yeah. There's no argument against that.
Yeah, and it's funny because they talk to you as if you couldn't run a full node at all, and you totally can, right? Oh, you cannot run a full node. Of course I can. Who told you I cannot? Are you crazy? Like, don't trust verify, man.
Don't trust verify. That's another good one as well too. And another one as well too is not your keys, not your coins, because that's been a mantra that has been in the BTC community. Not your keys, not your coins, not your keys, not your coins. So if you say to them, not your keys, not your coins, and then, but wait, you're using Wallet of Satoshi. You just need to highlight. You don't need to tell them more. You just need to highlight the dissonance where they say, oh, but I just use a custodial wallet for spending. And you say, but isn't it not your keys, not your coins? And then you let them.
And they say, oh, it's so little money there. I don't care if hacker gets it.
Yes, they say that. And then you say, well, how is more people going to join the system then? If some kid in, what's it called? El Salvador, he only has as much money as you have in that wallet. So what do you recommend for him? And then boom, there you go. All right, so talking, that's all. That's a good segment actually. I'm glad we did that. But that's all arguing with the BTC people. Tell me a bit about promoting the BCH ecosystem, because one thing I've noticed you do a lot and say a lot is that the BCH people in the BCH ecosystem don't get enough usage out of the things we already have, right? Like, we're going out there telling everyone Bitcoin Cash is the world's best thing, but there's loads of good stuff that are not getting. Like, people should start with themselves, right? They should use all the existing tools we have, and that would be even better before worrying about what anyone else is doing. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe me speaking here, but the impression I have is a lot of people who are very involved in the groups and on Twitter, when I ask them, oh, have you ever used this? Have you ever used that? They always say, I mean, not always, but most of the time they say, oh, I haven't had the time to check it out yet. And I think it's the opposite. I think because you're not using BCH stuff, you're running out of time. Like, you have to work overtime because fiat is eating you up. And if you were, paying more attention to Bitcoin Cash stuff, you would have more money than otherwise, and you would have more free time. Like, so it's kind of the opposite. They say, oh, I don't use it because I don't have time, but you don't have time because you don't use it. That's how I would put it. So, like, we're always talking about the next app that's gonna be the bomb, wherever, right? So what about the apps we already have? Like, they are, like, for example, a Zappa peer-to-peer exchange. It's the only in the world right now that is non-custodial, peer-to-peer, private, right? Well, like, soon we're gonna have more, but so far it's either this or centralized exchange for the on and off ramp, right? So I know you're paying the price of convenience to use the centralized exchange, but you're missing out on this other thing that, in my view, is much better. And people should be like flooding up. The people who are most engaged should do every day a sell and a buy offer there. It's at least to arbitrage, at least. Just make an offer there. It's free. It's gonna stay there for as long as, I don't know, someone picks the offer, and then you do another one, and then people start using that more, and we will have more liquidity, more volume, and then you can ditch the centralized exchange, for good. I think that would be, and then like Paytaka will come up with another peer-to-peer exchange, hopefully Celine. So we would have competition between peer-to-peer non-custodial exchanges, and then we can have like what's the name, the price tracking thing, like
Bitcoin market cap
goddamn,
or something.
no, on BCH Bull.
Oh, the oracles.
So
yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have like oracles based on price coming from peer-to-peer exchanges, not from centralized exchange. I don't know. I assume that's where they get most of the price action, right? So use more of the stuff we already have, because we already have a bunch of awesome stuff like BitGrid, Zapit, peer-to-peer exchange, BCH Guru, BCH Bull. We already have insane things. Like they're so amazing. Like I don't have time. Come on, man. No,
Yes. No,
what's
it's a
the,
great
like
message.
I'm a physical trainer, okay? I'm a physical trainer, and the most, like most people say, I don't have time to exercise. Like that's the lamest excuse ever. Like please fool yourself and start doing what you know you have to do. Period.
Yes, and it's much harder for us to sell anyone else on the whole thing if you're not sort of practicing what you're preaching, right? If it's like you've got a few coins and you just yeah. Well, then if you're going out there saying, "Well, this is the best thing ever," it's completely different, because then you just get more experience in the ecosystem. And I'm somewhat guilty of that myself, I'll be honest. So I do, definitely, the Zapit P2P exchange has been on my to-do list for a while. Maybe right after the show, I'll go on and I'll put an order and I'll follow up with you and I'll show you that I did it, because, like I say, it's not about not having time. You got to make time, right? And that's not to say that the apps also can't improve, right? The UI needs to get easier and slicker and reducing that barrier to entry. But people are working on that all the time, right? It's not like with communities slacking in that regard. We are making things better, but it doesn't matter how slick it is, even if it's two pushes, if somebody's mind is still like, can't really be bothered. Or like how often are people sitting around scrolling on their phone, on the bus or like in public or whatever? Well, maybe take 5 minutes and just check out a new BCH app that you hadn't used before in that time instead, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I hope I'm gonna see more, like, for example, right now that I'm finally meeting Brazilians who are pro Bitcoin Cash. I'm shilling everything to these guys, and I want to use these things with these guys, and not only with these guys. Like, for example, I'm in South Brazil, so Argentina is not far from here. So I have already reached out to the Bitcoin Cash Argentina guys to see like what can we do, like, to get things moving faster. And so, but of course, like, I'm gonna get Brazilian people to engage this, because I'm sure, man, as soon as people slightly understand what's going on, they're gonna get what's like everyone should be on this. Like, why the heck isn't everybody using this? Why are you? I mean, I understand, like, it's something new. People are kind of, scared of something new, whatever.
Yeah.
But as soon as you understand that the blockchain is much trustworthy than a bank, and you can do all this to protect, like hedge and all this, and the economy, like not paying fees and machines, rent machines, all this, people will get on this like crazy, like they were starving for a week.
Yes. And that was what we saw up until the the block size war, obviously, and now it's all now the whole of crypto is still having that. People are still flooding into crypto, but it hasn't quite concentrated onto BCH just yet. But I think we're starting to get there and break through, like we said before, like that grassroots stuff. It is slowly turning the ship of public opinion. Okay, we got question of the week comes from Emergent Reasons, and he said, question for local adoption. From experience, what are the easiest starting point business/relationships that can work with just you, one person? So you told us before about onboarding a barber. Is there other similar situations you do, or do you have any particular tips or strategies as a one person? How can you onboard local businesses?
Well, like when I look at these apps that we already have, I try to think of ways that you can combine them to take, the most benefit, right? So basically, when I see a company that doesn't accept BCH, I kind of try to convince them to do, and as soon as I convince this company to do, then I go after the BCH people to use that company and pay the company with BCH. Right? So try to, get everyone together and start, developing BCH economies. So for example, I everything in my kitchen right now I bought on BitGrid pretty much, and I try to combine like right now, Satoshi's Angels paused the cashback campaign that they had, but I try to take advantage of this as much as I could. And the BitGray stuff, you can have an affiliate link on Amazon and send this link to the person who's going to execute your order on BitGray, and then you get a commission from Amazon paying for something with Bitcoin Cash, and then you can get this fiat commission to make an offer on Zapit to exchange the fiat to Bitcoin Cash. So different ways to combine everything. And then when you see the discount, the economy you made doing all this, you tell this to someone like, I expect this person to be, oh my God, I got to start doing this right away. Because look at all this economy. So that's one example. So just not to get like super confused, like right now, what I'm trying to do is try to get business to accept BCH. And as soon as you start accepting BCH, show to the community so they can go there and use the service. And I was doing this like for free, I wasn't getting paid to do any of this. But now we have a couple of few companies that have like referral programs, so you can get paid for Shilling BCH. So now it's even better. I'm still doing most free stuff because just a few companies have referral programs, as far as I know. FIFA Game is one of them, so that's going to be big, I think. If you go to the site there, FIFA Game, there's an FAQ there. They explain their referral programs at the middle, so it's pretty cool. Make sure you check that. So as soon as you provide a lot of advantages, benefits, and economy, I think that's the best way to promote BCH and get people to use it. But that's got to start with us, right? As we were talking before.
Yes, I think my tip for people as a one person attempt to create BCH into a local economy is that I think you need to think about what you already spend money on, right? Because people can easily get into this trap of, oh, I, need to like go out there and meet some new shop owner or something like that. Don't worry about that. You probably already have people in your area, local business owners or whatever that like the coffee shop that is down the road that you've been at for the last 3 years, and you've met the owner a few times and had a chat with them, and whatever, right? Something like that. Or your barber is a good one because people are always having a bit of a conversation with them, right? So when you said that, for me, it's my little local dance scene, right? I've been doing bachata dancing. Shout out to Alex and Sam. They're probably listening. And, you know, I was already doing bachata. I already knew those guys and I already was like friendly with them, right? So if you already have that kind of ongoing relationship, it's not, I'm here to shill you this thing. It's just one thing in the scope of your entire communication, right? And then I said to them, okay, try it out, you know, send him some BCH. It was all good. Now the price is pumped. They're loving it, right? And it's great. And we've got a little thing going. And so now I've got Alex and Sam, and then what's been interesting is a couple other people see it happening too, and they don't get involved, but it's that same thing about the seedlings. They see it happening, and they, you know, it starts to tick away in the back of their mind. It's not like something scary or weird or unusual, because now they don't just know not only their crypto going on over here, they don't even know the specifics, but they also know these several people that I know who are reasonable, regular people are involved in this, right? And that already is a huge vote of confidence for it. So you have to just start slow with one person who you already have a relationship with, who is a business owner or that you're regularly transacting with, right? Because if they're the checkout person at a huge supermarket chain, they're not going to have the power to get anything going. So that's the wrong person. But if it is the local hairdresser who runs their own business, or yeah, what, just like things that are your hobbies or stuff like that, it's more likely that you are going to know the key people involved on a personal level. And that is where I would, yeah, recommend you start. And then you get to know the other people in the surrounds of that. And then, because then you've got a 2-for-1, because if you can then convince somebody else who's interested or who knows that you're interested in it comes to talk to you, you then say, here, let me show you. You send that some to them, and then it's like what you said before, referring them to the business. Then you say, and they say, where can I spend it? And you say, with Alex at his bachata lessons, right? And then maybe they follow through or maybe they don't, but you're creating the possibility for those connections. Yeah.
You know, a conversation starter that have been working for me is, for example, when I go, even if you don't have any personal relationship with the business owner, you can, I don't know, sometime while the person is servicing you, you can ask, oh, how much do you pay in fees to accept debit card payments? And you're gonna instantly gonna see the unsatisfaction of the person, because I don't know, here in Brazil, I heard that these fees can go as high as 7%. Imagine that. So, and oh, what would you like to see this thing that you don't have to pay anything? Of course. So, you know, then you go, there you go. And I was kind of proud of myself because you were saying that, oh, if you go to a barber, you're going to chat with the person while the person is cutting your hair. But what if you go to a dentist? Like, you can't say anything. You're going to be there with your mouth open for how long? And if you can onboard your dentist, you are the man. And I did this. Like,
that's got to be the new metric. Most dentists onboarded, you know? How many, how regular do you need your dentist checkups? Like, okay, yearly checkup. Well, let's make it a weekly one. I'll do everyone in the vicinity. Try and convince them all at BCH.
How fast can you onboard your dentist with your mouth open most of the time without being able to speak?
I feel like there's something to this. It could almost be like a meme challenge or something, like fastest onboarding time of a dentist. I don't know. I feel like that's going to sit in the back now. Maybe we need to do some Twitter memes or something with a tooth saying get BCH or something.
Yeah.
Dentist 9 out of 10.
Like if you go, like. Yeah. And I have proof. If you go on Bitcoin map, like map.bitcoin.com, and you go to South Brazil, the Rio Grande do Sul state, you're gonna see my dentist listed on the app.
There we go. Love it. Don't trust, verify. We're going to have to verify that. Everyone in the
Verify,
community
exactly.
can verify that that is real. Bruno is the
And not only my
dentist.
dentist, like burger places and some other things I managed to onboard around there.
Amazing, amazing. So on this topic, we've got community comment of the week, which this week goes to Saeed Miller, who we were having some chat, sort of similar to this conversation in the Telegram group, and we brought up Ryan X Charles. For anybody who doesn't know, he's a guy who was in BCH before there was the split with BSV, and then he ended up going on the BSV side, and he like was a very smart guy. He had a business called Yours and Money Button, both of which were successful, got a lot of crypto users, a lot of people were loving this guy, right? But he kind of got on the wrong side of the split, and then he really went really hard on the whole Craig Wright is Satoshi thing, and he made a whole video series with Craig Wright where he says at the start, like a cult member in a sort of a trance, like, you are the creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, and like he was just way down the rabbit hole. Anyway, he seems to be, certainly struggling to reconcile that, because he's now launched a thing which he calls Craig Coin, CREG coin. He's launching his own. I don't even know if it's a real thing or he's just said that he's going to do it as sort of a joke. But anyway, he's obviously starting to come around on his whole belief that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. But there was some chat about that, and Saeed Miller said maybe we need to onboard more therapists to crypto with a smiley face, and that just made me burst out laughing, because Ryan X Charles or anyone else, the amount of like delusion and hopium of I'm going to be rich in the Citadel, and just the emotional trauma of people who've lost all their coins, like he's right. Like, therapists should be just have their doors wide open to the crypto community, because I think there's a lot of problems that need addressing there,
Yeah, therapists and dentists to
Exactly.
as much as we can.
Bitcoin Cash, the preferred choice of therapists and dentists worldwide. That might have to be our new slogan. We've got good teeth and good mental health. That's how you know a good crypto community.
One thing I would like to say is, like, for example, I started using Bitcoin Cash since forever, but like another guys started when there was only Bitcoin. And I really admire the people who were pragmatic enough to realize that old Bitcoin, like maybe there was like some nostalgia about it, something like that. The guy, like you guys, were pragmatic enough and rational enough, not tribal, to make the change to Bitcoin Cash, right? Even like I remember Jason Reisner is the name of the guy. Like,
yes,
he said that, oh, you don't keep working on a project after you lost like 98% of the value because of the money. So like you guys are incredible. Like, hats off to you, because you've done that, and I like to believe that in your position I would have done the same. But thinking is like, I know how hard that must have been for you guys to let go of ETC after it got bad and change to Bitcoin Cash, where it's still the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a little sad turn of events and everything like that. But on the other hand, like I've said before, I think there is an element that we couldn't have got here any other way, right? Bitcoin always had to make it through some kind of pushback and resistance and some kind of propaganda and attacks and takeover by the banks. And now we've seen what that entails, and seems like we passed, maybe not with flying colors, but we did get to a winning position from here at least. And yeah, some things are worth more than money, I guess, is all I can say on that topic. Oh,
we've lost
we're gonna
Bruno.
we're gonna have to try and get him back on the show.
Let me do this just to make that easy.
We were doing good up until then.
Yeah.
All right, 1 sec. Let me have a look at what's people saying in the.
I got a giggle at a Bitcoin Judas.
Bitcoin Judas dance instruction videos. Well, it's funny you say that. You know, maybe that could be coming soon. Got an only coins that start sell dancing videos. I don't need to sell that shit. I'll do it for free. We'll pay BCH for a video of Jeremy dancing. There's just go on the sunrise video clip. There's a little bit of me dancing in that.
Send me a DM. I got the goods on
Exactly. Jet, you're gonna be my pimp. You're gonna be my digital pimp. Let's make sure we get some commission on this going, and Bitcoin Judas can pay a few sats. Probably at Bliss. I'm hoping I'll be able to do a little bit of dancing. I did some dancing at St. Kitts when we were there as well too. That was really, really fun actually. That was really cool. Any word from Bruno?
Nothing on my end. I don't see anything in Telegram either.
Okay, here we go. My internet went down. Okay. Cool. Okay, he'll be back in a sec. He says he says it. I think he'll be back in a minute. Right, so that's it. What about on YouTube? Anybody moon making? BCH to the moon boom says Brykaz 0613. So big shout out to them because yeah, we have been mooning. What about you, Jet? What's the latest with you? Have you been enjoying the BCH price gains recently?
Yeah. It's so weird because I think every time we get a price rise like this, I am like, we're going back down. Like, but I'm also too much of a pussy to make a hedge and be like, oh, I can double up my BCH rating. I'm so like I think I've been around in the space enough to be able to call, I guess, like relative tops and bottoms. Be like, oh, okay, we just pumped 200% in a week. We're definitely going back down, right? And then I woke up the next day and the price was more. I was like, okay, we are actually popping off. And then the fact that we've stabilized here for 5 days, 6 days, well, no, a week now? It's pretty good. Okay, give me 1 second to find out.
All right, so that's I mean, we're in a good spot, I think, and everybody should hopefully be celebrating and enjoying the price gains. One thing I'm really keeping an eye on is if we can keep grinding up the coin market cap a little bit, because things tend to happen in these like big pumps, you know. So the higher up we are, there's a big difference. If we start pumping from 20, maybe we're only going to make it to 15 or 14. But if we start pumping from like 15 or 14, we could just quietly sneak into one of those spots. Then boom, it'll be in top 10. And then that'll be a game changer, because that's when you start popping up on all those top 10 coin market cap lists, and it starts to be more like the crypto news is going to start reporting, oh, Bitcoin Cash back in the top 10, because by then you're flipping actually coins that people pay attention to. Kishniev is saying XMR is out of the top 50. Boom. Let's have a look. Really? Monero has been struggling hard, man.
Yeah, that delisting really got to them.
Yeah, geez. Let's see. Monero currently ranked 49 on CoinMarketCap, but they're still at $145. Sounds like they missed all of this pump because they were at 140 like months ago. Thorchain is about to flip them at $7.57. So yeah, the Monero community really, really struggling. Our brothers in arms over there with the peer-to-peer electronic cash mission, but it's also weird because they do have a bit of a cope where they say, oh, it's better if we get delisted because then that proves that we don't need the exchanges and we'll be fine without it. It's like, yes, but it's better to be listed than not. Let's be real. So I'm not saying that they need to compromise to get back on the exchanges, but whenever I see any community copes like that, I'm like, you're going to have to fix that cope. Otherwise, it's just symptomatic of a community that's not going to be attracted to outsiders, really.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
Yeah. All right. Emergent reasons. Cash whiff hat number 1. So I've seen there's this coin, is it dog whiff hat or something, that is in the top 100. Where is it? So suddenly everybody thinks that's the new funniest meme. Dog whiff hat, ranked 59. It's up 83% in the last 24 hours. In the last week, I mean, last 7 days. So
Here we go.
anyone investing in dog whiff hat, you're going to be all good. Next to Bonk, which has absolutely mooned, which kind of sucks for me because I got Dobo, which was the alternative meme. I bought a tiny little bit of Dobo. Yeah, hey, you're back. Hello.
All right. Sorry for that. My internet went down.
It's all good, mate. We'll just edit it out. Nobody's even going to know the difference.
And no earbuds this time. Like earbuds battery went down as well. So it's gonna have to be like this now. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, it's fine. I can hear you. It's all good. All right.
So I was telling you like how great the guys are. Made the change to Bitcoin Cash without any emotional attachment to the old Bitcoin, BTC, Greg coin, wherever.
Greg coin. That meme has really caught on, that whole Greg Maxwell, Greg coin thing. People are loving that. We've always needed a counter name for Bcash, so maybe Greg coin is the one that sticks. I don't know. All right. So then we wanted to chat about a Sats standard. So for people who don't know, everybody should basically know, but just to recap, 1 Bitcoin, 1 BCH or 1 BTC is made up of 100 million Satoshis, which are like the equivalent of cents to the dollar, that are, and actually in the protocol itself, that's how everything is written. So BCH as a label is just kind of a UI trick. There is actually no BCH coins per se at the protocol level, right? But the Bitcoin community, for a long time, ever since I was involved, certainly 2014, 2015, there was a lot of chat about, well, what are we going to do when the price goes up? Like, people are going to be dealing in these tiny little fractions of a Bitcoin, and that's going to be really unintuitive. And it's just part of human psychology. People are much more able to understand 100 of something than 0.01, right? So we need to try and change this unit bias. So Callisti and I and a few other people were discussing this on Telegram the other day, and there's been questions about moving to a Sats standard. So instead of having 1 BCH and 1,000th of that is a millibit, and 1,000,000th of that is a bit, and 100 millionth of that is a Satoshi, what if we just realign everything to Sats? So 1 sat is 100 million of a BCH, but 1,000 sats is a kilo sat, like a kilo, bytes, megabytes, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, right? It's the same thing, but with sats. So you have 1 sat, 1,000 sats is a millisat, 1,000 sats is a kilosat, sorry. 1,000 kilosats is a megasat, which is 1 million sats. So 100 megasats is now a BCH. 1,000 megasats is a gigasat, which is 10 BCH. 1,000 gigasats is a terasat, which is 10,000 BCH. And 1,000 terasats is a petasat, which is 10 million BCH. And I love this when when Callisti said, okay, so that means we got to drop 21 million Bitcoin. It's not about 21 million Bitcoin. It's 2.1 petasats. And I was sold. With that, I was like, I'm sold. If the BCH community can start talking about 2.1 petasats instead of 21 million coins, that will drive the conversation. And it will also be great because the BTC community are also very interested in this Sats redenomination. They haven't come up with this. I've never heard this from any of them. So if they start hearing BCH people doing about 2.1 petasats, and they'll say, what is that? And then you say, well, we're on a Sats standard. That's the 21 million. That's a classic case of BCH being ahead of the game yet again, right? And part of the reason we were discussing this is because it's on the potential chips is in discussion to have sub-Satoshis, fractional Satoshis. So because at global scale, Sats would already be, not a non-trivial amount of money. So we need to maybe even divide it further. So we're going to have millisats or sub-Sats, fractional Sats. So probably 3 more decimal places. So be able to divide one Sat into 1,000 pieces. And maybe 100 pieces is a Sentoshi, and then 1,000 piece is a millisat, right? So obviously, how would this actually work in practice? Well, firstly, the community has to discuss and start using this new terminology. So I'm going to hopefully try and promote that myself because I think this is a great idea. And secondly, apps can also start displaying Sats as the default, which you have already with a Fifth of Gaming. Shout out to them. Everything's already denominated in Sats, and maybe we'll make the default in Selene to also be Sats. You can set it back to BCH if you want, but maybe we'll make the default for new people Sats. What do you think? Can we get onto a Sats standard?
Yeah, like when I first read about this, I thought about the contrast between fiat and BCH. For example, fiat goes down in value over time, mostly, and then you start having crazy denominations like 1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars, something like that. And people like everyone who lives in a territory has to adapt and get familiarized with this new scale, right? But Bitcoin Cash goes on the opposite direction. Like, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about like petasats or something like that. I think we will be talking more about the subsats because the tendency is to increase in value relative to fiat, right? So I think it's going more on the opposite direction. Instead of saying 1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars, we're gonna be talking about like millisats or something like that.
Well, that's right, exactly. And one thing that also is part of the discussion and debate here that people in the community can get involved in is there's been no good option or universal option found for a symbol for Satoshis, because you can write Sats, SATS, but every other currency always has a symbol, right? Even Bitcoin now has a symbol. Once upon a time it didn't, but now it has the B with the 2 lines, right? So we need something like that for Sats. Now, my favorite proposal that I've seen so far comes from CypherCat, who has like a capital S with a slash through the middle horizontally, but it's also slightly tilted, right? So it's slightly lower on the left side than the right side, so an upward like slash through it. So if you write it on paper with a pen, you can actually do an S, and you can even just extend the tail and just slash up through it. There's already a Unicode symbol for this, which is good because then it's already in a lot of computer software and we don't need to advocate about anything different. It kind of looks like a currency symbol. It's eye-catching, doesn't have an existing meaning. So I'm loving that, but people obviously have all kinds of different symbols that they would say. The one problem with this one is that it's in Unicode, but a lot of software still doesn't support this specific symbol. Like there's loads of Unicode ones, like Telegram and WhatsApp and stuff maybe don't have it yet. So I don't know how maybe we're going to have to get around it by just copy pasting it a bunch. But then even then your software doesn't recognize it. So like, I don't know, but that's the best one I've seen. What do you think about a symbol for Sats?
Well, we just have to be careful not to be similar to other things that already exist, especially when they have a bad connotation, right? Even with the sound, like for example, here in Brazil, we have that Pix payment system, right? Pix, And sats is kind of similar the way it sounds, like, so it could be confusing for some people, or it could, like, have like a bad connotation for other people. So I have to watch out for this. And for example, uh, there are some coins that already have this horizontal strike through. So even if you tilt it a little bit, can be too close to that thing that we don't really want to promote. So we have to kind of watch out for all these things and really make something very different, distinguishable, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and in each country we will have something, so it's gonna be kind of hard. But we have time, like, to decide about this.
Yeah, well, it will emerge organically, but I
Yeah.
just think it would be good if we try and be on the front foot about this, right? The BTC community have done a bit more good work on this because their price is so much higher. So you see people talking in sats there a bit more, and our price is obviously much lower, so sats are much less sort of relevant in that sense. But I think if we can get the jump with this full I've never seen a mega sats and kilo sats and 2.1 petasats. I've never seen that from the BTC community. This is a BCH innovation. If we can get that going, that will be another thing that will just perk up the interest of people who might consider, switching, thinking like, wow, these guys are really ahead of the game. They are really serious.
Yeah.
Jet, what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on the symbol or the sat standard?
To be completely honest, I do not denominate things in Satoshis. It is so much easier to just think in BCH, and I know that's just kind of a mental trick, but it works well for me, so I don't like after like that fourth placeholder, I just stop caring. Like I'll round up and send a transaction. I don't have that much. I don't hold on to Satoshis. I don't stack sats.
You're not stacking sats.
I'll stack coins.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
like for example, when I go on Calderon Dex, there's an option to see the numbers there in sats or in BCH. The standard is sats right now, I think, but I always switch to BCH because I'm more familiar with the BCH notation.
Yeah, well, I'm loving that if they have the default in sats because I think that's what all the apps in the ecosystem should take very seriously because we only need to do this kind of once. If we get over to that and then everybody gets used to sats and then you can have sats including 3 decimal places once we have sub satoshis, that's good up until global scale basically. And if it's a problem, then there'll be a different problem. So yeah, I just encourage everyone in the community to start thinking about in terms of stats and maybe start talking about it. Instead of saying 1 BCH, say that's 100 megasats. And then, so it's the same as bytes. Bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, same thing. Sats, kilosats, megasats, 100 megasats is a BCH. Gigasats, terasats, 2.1 petasats is the total supply of BCH. So that's my advocacy for the day. And yeah, maybe you'll see something in Selene soon if we make that the default. Right, one other topic we got to get onto is this thing about ZK rollups. So I put out a tweet a couple of days ago which said the outcome of BTC's self-imposed no hard fork political gridlock is that they're copying ETH scaling plans just with more nodes and hash rate. The enormous UTXO advantage has been squandered to instead trail ETH at their own game because politics. Fascinating. Now, I said this in reply to a guy who made a really good video explaining about Bitcoin rollups. You can find it on my Twitter if you want to watch this video. It's about 45 minutes. It's really good. He goes through exactly what's going on with it. But essentially what has happened is the Ethereum community for the last 4 or 5 years have been struggling with their inability to scale the EVM. And so the solution that they've hit on has been rollups, especially this thing called ZK rollups, zero knowledge rollups. And the idea is that you can essentially have a separate blockchain with all transactions and all whatever going on. And then you have something called a sequencer, which is basically like the node of that blockchain. And then that puts a proof of the whole history, like a hash, into the main blockchain. And then if anybody wants to dispute that, then using the cryptography, you can prove that they submitted a fraudulent hash and the transactions were invalid. And that's kind of the basic idea, right? Maybe we'll have to do a separate episode where we get into all the specifics of it. And I'm certainly not a ZK rollups expert. But the point I want to address today is that the ETH community have been banging away on that for a while. And it's now coming into vogue in the BTC community because they've kind of recognized that Lightning Network is not really going to save them. They're still coping about we can never do a block size increase or we can never do a hard fork. But they do recognize they need to do something. So they're kind of looking around for solutions, and they've hit onto ZK rollups through this idea of called BitVM that they believe will let them do enough calculating on BTC without even a fork to kind of get some sort of workable rollups going. Now, to address this from my point of view, firstly, I think this is a great development for us because it's the opposite of basically what BCH is doing. We're just raising the block size, we're putting in ABLA, we're getting ready for sub Satoshis and all that stuff. So we're becoming more unique versus BTC, which is great because the more differentiated the two projects get, the less problems we have with people confusing them or people saying, oh, it's just a scam or a knockoff or anything like that. So that's great. Also, I also think our plan is much better and more likely to work. So if we're doing that and they're doing a bad idea, then that's fine. And also, if they come up with anything good, we can just copy it. Exactly like if the Lightning Network had worked, we could have just bought it. It's all going to have to be open source and so forth, right? So the final point to add on to this is that interestingly, Eric Wall of Wizardry Orb fame just released a post today, another Orb answer talking about somebody asked him, what about Bitcoin L2s and ZK rollups? Is this the next frontier? He was actually kind of lukewarm on it, or maybe even bearish. He said, look, a lot of money will pile into it and so forth, but he's not really convinced that it's going to work or be great because getting upgrades into the protocol is going to be kind of a disaster. And I found that really interesting, firstly, because he had essentially the same take as me, that he also recognizes that the inability to upgrade the protocol is roadblocking them. But also, he said before a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, when I was submitting my orb question, he said, "Oh, don't worry about scaling. You guys need to get ZK rollups and you need to do Celestia and all that." That was his answer to why BCH was wrong. And yet here he is, a month later saying, "Yeah, I'm not too convinced about these ZK rollups and stuff. It's probably a good idea, but maybe the ETH guys have already got the jump on it." So this whole thing is just to say that everybody who listens to the podcast should be aware of this is going to be a lot more in the narrative. You're going to see a lot more of crypto discussion about scaling and ZK rollups, both from the ETH and BTC community. So I've got to keep everyone up to date with that change in the meta. What do you make of all this, Bruno?
Well, I'm not as versed in technical things as you guys, but what comes to my mind listening to all this is what CypherCat said a while ago, that L2s are actually an L1 or something else. and I remember, I think Jason Bones tweeted about this a few days ago, and the final point was, that's just another L2 solution. Like, why are you working so much on L2 while your L1 is crippled? Doesn't make any sense. So that's what, with the little technical knowledge that I have, I can say about that. Sorry, the neighbors are making a little bit of noise here. So yeah.
Yes, well, so you've got a couple of things going on, right? So when you look at just the Ethereum community, they're trying to do all this research to figure out these ZK rollups and stuff. Maybe they kind of can figure it out or make it work somehow. I'm not mega optimistic. I'm sure they will do work on that, but I don't think it's really going to be the holy grail to their problem because it's the fundamental problem isn't really technical. It's more economic. Like you said, once you have people on this chain, if it's essentially a separate blockchain, then you need to have a bridge between them, right? And then somebody who's on the layer 1 sending to the layer 2, it's going to be fees to go across this bridge. So now you've split up the liquidity. And then if you add tokens, it's even worse. If I've got tokens on my roll up and then I want to send them to layer 1, that's going to be a huge pain. But then they said, well, nobody needs to be in layer 1. Except for a few, big institutions or whatever. Hello, reinvented banking system. But then you have some other ZK roll-ups, and now it's even worse. How do you send between all the different ZK roll-ups? That's going to be even less efficient. And they say, well, we're going to find a way to just abstract it all away, or some new technologies that they're going to do to make it acceptable trade-offs or whatever. But it all just strikes me as it's missing the point. You guys are just paying the price for being on the EVM model instead of the UTXO model, which was built with scalability. Now, it's even more interesting on the BTC side, because not only do they have the UTXO model, which they've just, giving up their golden advantage, of course, which they have for a long time, but this is just reinforcing the point. But also, they can't even do ZK rollups like the ETH community. They're going to have to do some workarounds and hacks to kind of half make it work, when really the problem is their politics rather than their tech. The tech is also a problem.
Everything but scaling the layer 1.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else, anything and everything will be considered and come into vogue. But we can always copy it if I'm wrong, if it works out, if it's great. But I think I'm feeling good that BCH is still staying on its path of layer 1, global scale, UTXO model, UTXO commitments to fix IBD. I just think we're looking great. If this is what the competition is getting a bit lost in. It's also funny because the BTC community spent so long saying, "Oh, well, we were the original and the best, and we have discussed all these issues about tokens and stuff way before you guys." Now it's the opposite. Now the ETH community are the ones who are on the cutting edge, and the BTC community are kind of struggling to catch up. But they're not going to beat ETH at their own game, and it's the wrong game to be playing anyway. So there you go. Anyway, everyone can look out for more about ZK rollups, because I'm sure that will be topical going forward. Okay, we got message to the community. You're a listener of the show. I'm sure you know the drill. What does the Bitcoin Cash community need to hear?
Well, I remember Roger explaining the different approaches between BCH and BTC, and his approach, I mean, not his approach, but the approach that he was, promoting was we have to get Bitcoin, at the time was only Bitcoin, to as much people as fast as we possibly can. So, the government won't be able to stop it if we reach critical mass or something like that, right? I think the same argument right now can be used for the DeFi in Bitcoin Cash tokens. I think that's gonna be the biggest thing, because you can do, I was reading the list of things you can do with cash tokens. You can create collateralized loans. You can create the token can represent shares of the company, can pay dividends. So we already, as far as I know, already have the technology that will allow us to have the borderless, decentralized, permissionless stock market, or whatever market, not only stocks, right? So right now, speaking to people about this, I feel like people are kind of scared, oh, what if I get in trouble if I be the first? But I think it was Bitcoin Cash artist who said the eyes of Sauron is not on us right now. So that's another advantage that we have. So I think we should move with this as fast as we can to, remember the argument of as fast as we can to the most people we can until we reach the point of no return, right? So we have to move with this and create this peer-to-peer permissionless, decentralized, borderless stock market, and help business to get capital, finance themselves with these instruments, right? Like right now, the model is okay. So I'm a dev. I'm gonna launch a flip starter. So it's kind of like still like donation oriented, which is amazing. Like nothing wrong with this. But if we stop depending so much on donations and go more commercial, like let's trade, let's issue stocks, let's go more towards this direction. I think that's the way we should go right now.
Yeah, it's a great point. Sometimes it just takes everybody just don't, beg forgiveness, not permission, right? And just crack on with it. There's enough other tokens and stock issuings and stuff going on in the rest of crypto that I'm sure we're not the only ones doing it. And like you say, you got to get on the front foot in terms of being ahead of the game while we're not under a lot of pressure. And the more we spread it, the more it just becomes built into society that this is just the way things are done. So yeah, I think that's a very insightful message that people should take to heart.
I think this is gonna be like a atomic bombs. Can get really big. Break from the regional restrictions of investing companies with this. This can be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to once we have slightly more advanced, like you say, with the flip starters, even there, just being able to give cash tokens back out to the people who donated so they can build up credibility in the community for having a whole history. Like that already sort of operates. People already sort of know, oh, I've seen this person donating over and over. Like they're a good actor in the scene. But once we can have some cryptographic proof of all that and, so on, it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are ways, if I can say one more thing, like for example, I cannot name names right now, but I'm already speaking to some people who are understanding this. And like when it comes to like government, retaliation, for lack of a better word, you can always find like jurisdictions where it's going to be easier for you to do, like even in the United States. Like I've heard of companies who have like a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands, and this subsidiary was used to finance the company that was registered in the mainland United States with all the regulations and all this. So there are ways that you can work around, like the bureaucracy and be safe when it comes to government retaliation if you're going to do something that probably that's going to have some retaliation back.
Yeah, so think forward, but think smart about it. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we've got our supporter appreciation, the end of the show. As always, thank you to our donators. You're the absolute best. Thank you to our patrons, Ricky HP and Digital Checo. Thank you to our sponsor, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. The Flipstarter is running now. Like I said, flipstarter.bitcoincashpodcast.com. And people who've already earned a slot there for the shoutouts are Majamalu, Marcelo, Shadow of Harbinger, BTC Fork, Adam Back, Big V, Cheapy Cheap Lightning, Emergent Reasons, Imaginary Username, and Yeah Beer. Such a great name. So yeah, go throw in some sats to that if you're enjoying the show, because that's just reinvesting in the community, reinvesting in my ability to get lunch, really. And then also I've got to shout out the Celine Flip Starter as well too. That's most of the way there, but it could also use a bit of love to get it over the line. That will fund this old Celine dev and stuff for more than the next year, essentially. And there's a big roadmap that Callisti has written out with loads of stuff that everybody has been requesting. So Celine.flipstarter.cash. Obviously, you can also come to Bliss 66 days, like I said. So get excited for that. Less than 10 weeks away. Now is a great time to pick up a ticket, the roster of people that is going to be there is absolutely stacked. So you are guaranteed to get value for money and also have a great time. Check out the start guide, FAQ, and links at www.bitcoincashpodcast.com. If you're new, listen to episode 85. That'll give you the background for all of this. And obviously try Selene Wallet. Okay, shout outs for the show. Bruno, what do you want to give a shout out to?
Well, shout out to AriaVPN.
AriaVPN.
So AriaVPN, they accept Bitcoin Cash. They have Tor integration. They accept zero confirmation transactions, so pretty good. And also, they have a referral program. They pay 25% commissions in Bitcoin Cash. So if you want to earn Bitcoin Cash, you can promote them as well, just like I'm doing right now. A fifth of gaming, right? So amazing. They also are promoting their services with referral programs. And whatever other company that start doing this, let's promote them so we have the economy going on.
All right, we'll put your referral links in the description. So if people want to support Bruno, they can follow up with AriaVPN or Fifth of Gaming and get the economy booming that way. Jet, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, I don't think so, no.
Okay, all right. And my shout out goes to you, Bruno. You've been crushing it in the community for ages. And even these ideas that you're saying about we should, make more use of our tools and stuff, like that's a message I myself need to hear. And I know that you said to me, and I've been, yeah, like, but you're right. You're right. And like I said, I'll jump on the Zapit P2P marketplace right after this. And maybe we can talk about those referral links again too, because everybody always has resistance to new ideas, but I think you're right about this. And so obviously you've got
I think that with your reach and credibility, you can make buck with this, man. And it's all BCH, man. It's BCH, man.
Yes. Well, I'll certainly a Fifth of Gaming. I'm very happy to promote them. I love those guys. AriaVPN, I haven't looked into that yet, so I would need to do my due diligence there. But a Fifth of Gaming, those guys are great. And like I said at the start of the show, we're going to have a tournament next week on the Friday. I think it's the 15th or the 16th. So 7 p.m. EST. Come and get involved. Come win some BCH, or maybe lose some BCH to some Magic the Gathering fans who will then be excited about BCH. So it's a no lose kind of situation. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Till next time.
So I started realizing that if you can just find strength just a little bit longer, you will have a crew of people following you along the way.
And that is another thing.